Hey everyone, this is Alisa Dixon, and this is Astrology with Alisa, Real Talk with My Astro Besties. This week's podcast was all about Leo. And so, of course, today we are celebrating Leo energy. So, we're going to start off by just talking about Leo itself and the energy it brings and what we think about when we think of Leo. I think of leadership, I think of authenticity, I think of creativity, self-expression, and stepping out into the limelight, shining the way you're meant to shine, because Leo is ruled by the sun, and we're just meant to step into who we are. So what do you guys all think? What do you think about when you think of Leo?
I'll jump in. I think of generosity and loyalty. The Leo energy is this beautiful leadership quality that can really step up to bat when people are in need of being seen. The Leo celebrates being, how do I want to say? I think it's something very special when the Leo energy is seen for their generosity, for when they step up, for when they give. It means a lot. Especially you think of love languages, and that recognition, that appreciation is a huge piece of loving your Leo and making sure that they really are seen and celebrated and validated.
For me, I think what comes to mind is boldness.
Mm.
Leos will be bold, and that shows up in different ways. They're bold, they're creative, they can be performative, particularly on stage. So, yeah, those are the big ones for me.
Royalty for me, Leos are important and special. And every sign has its light and dark sides. And one of the dark sides could be the need to be very special. I associate pride with Leo as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, you are dead on. The other thing too is Leo is a fixed sign. And so you get the stubbornness sometimes can come in with Leo. Leo wants what he wants, and that's that. And there's could be the tendency to dig in heels and make sure that they get what they get because they want what they want. So that's another piece of it as well for any Leos that you know in your life. But we definitely want to celebrate all of the good in Leo. I've had some people tell me, oh my gosh, I just can't be with another Leo again. And it's funny because that's some of those lower vibes that we were just talking about. Maybe that's why Leo is performative, but it can also have the drama element to it. But Leo is wonderful. And so we have some really cool Leo placements that we're going to talk about today. Placements meaning sun, moon, rising, Saturn, Mars, etc. And so I thought it might be fun. We're all going to stay quiet for a quick second. One of us here on the screen is a Leo rising. So we're going to just pause for a minute and let you all viewing guess which one of us is the Leo rising. All right, go ahead and share. Who is the Leo rising? It's Holly. It's Holly, and one dead giveaway for a Leo rising is the bright red lipstick, which you will notice anytime you see her on here, you will see those bright red lips. I don't think I've ever seen Holly without this shade on her lips. So your rising sign is your first impression. It's what people see. So Holly, why don't you talk a little bit about Leo rising and how that shows up in your life, other people's reactions to you, how you feel going out into the world as a Leo rising, all of the above.
Yeah. So let me start with the lipstick and just acknowledge that there aren't many people in the world who see me without it. I scuba dive with it. I gave birth to my son wearing this red lipstick, and recently had the opportunity or necessity to do CPR on my dad, and everything turned out well and he was okay. But we all sort of joked his little gray mustache had some red on it that we thought was blood, like his nose had blood. And it turned out it was just my lipstick, and it was still on there 3 days later from CPR. So yeah, the lipstick is a thing. Yeah, I've been wearing it since I was 15. So, I want to talk about Leo rising from both aspects, right? Because like any sign, there's the bright side, the dark side. What I would say is, with it being my rising sign, I definitely meet the world in a confident, ready to stand and deliver kind of way. My corporate background has been heavily leadership. I started leading when I was 20, was the first team I had that I managed. So it shows up that way. I do a lot of stand and deliver in terms of presentations and running corporate training environments, et cetera. And so there's definitely this confidence, unshakability that the world sees me with. I'm also often mistaken as being an extrovert, which I am not an extrovert. As a matter of fact, after a day with people, I really, really, really need to go be by myself to power back up. And there's definitely a pride and ego standard sort of thing about my personality that is without question. I would say to be imperfect and make a mistake is embarrassing. For me to do that in front of a large group of people would be what I would call humiliating. And because of that, I work my ass off to not make mistakes in front of people, frankly, because I don't like that feeling of humiliation on any level. And so I would say that I'm definitely opinionated and outspoken, and all those things show up. People tell me I have a presence that's hard to ignore, whether that's the red lipstick or just the fact I wear black and white and primary colors, mainly red and blue. I can be prideful and controlling, and I've been told I'm bossy. And so it definitely shows up in that way. I would say I have a very healthy ego. My joke is that my husband is also Leo rising.
Wow.
So my joke is we have to have 1,000 square feet to our house just to accommodate our egos, 1,000 square feet each, because we both have healthy egos. So yeah, and I am generous to a fault with my time, with my money, with my investments, frankly. I would say by and large, I am pretty optimistic, and that's another Leo characteristic.
I love that. Anything that Lori or Irina you have to add?
I was going to say, one of the things that strikes me so beautifully about Holly is that ability to step into the role of leadership. I'm even thinking about our astrology community, how you really were the one who stepped forward. It's kind of like you saw a need and you're filling the need. And you stepped right into the spot of the helm and really orchestrated bringing everything together in such a beautiful way, knowing the right questions to ask, knowing the right pieces to bring together. There was a care that you brought to it that I feel like the leadership in the Leo differs a little from Aries and Capricorn. It's kind of like, this is my pride, this is my pack. I'm coming to take care. So it's different in the leadership. I feel kind of like if you had the general in the armies, the Leo leader is right down there in the mix of it, like Braveheart,
Yes.
like go. Whereas some other leaders might be back on the hill orchestrating. So you put yourself into the fire and it's beautiful, and you do bring a presence. And the presence that you bring is a steadiness. I always think of Leo, the lioness. They could be looking, I'm just taking a nap out in the Sahara, the jungle, and I'm just looking across the land. And then in an instant, they go. And you think, wait, I thought they were just napping. They looked like they were doing nothing. And you have this deep, like when you said that, when you show up, you want to show up fully, because part of that Leo is, and I see this in my brother too, which I know we'll talk about later, he's a Leo, is that there's such pride in the work that the Leos bring and put in, that there's a lot of behind the scenes work that goes into it before they show up. And when you have someone like that, they bring a confidence that brings a peacefulness to everybody else in the room. So when we've been able to be together and chat, like at workshops or around coffee tables, dining tables, again, you bring this confidence and peacefulness because you've done the work. So I really enjoy being in your space. It's fun to hang out.
Well, thank you for that. And I love that. And, you bring up a point I think is important here, which is my leadership style is very protective. And I can be a tough, demanding leader with very high standards. And I often have a lot of people who enjoy working for me because, to your point, Irina, I won't ask anyone to do something I won't do, or I'm not willing to model myself. And I'm very protective of a team that I'm leading if they make a mistake or there's something, escalates, for example. I don't ever go after my own. I prefer to really understand and plug in and take care of that so that we can get done what needs to get done. And they feel protected enough to pick themselves back up and get right back at it.
One thing that I'm thinking about is your Leo placement. So you are Leo rising, which is going to manifest a little differently than a Leo sun.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us how you think it's different than somebody that might be a Leo sun, because we're really talking about how you're embodying all of these traits, but it isn't you at your core. So
That's right.
what's the difference?
That's right. So I think it's important to talk about the fact that the ascendant, as I said, is how I greet the world and how the world experiences me really on the surface. Your sun is your core. And at my core, I'm a Scorpio, which is a water sign instead of a fire sign. It's a private introverted sign versus a public extroverted sign like Leo is. And so while I have that capability, my preference operating from my core is I used to joke that if I could be the JD Salinger of corporate America, meaning I do all this work, but no one ever sees my face and knows who I am, that would actually be what I love to do. As a matter of fact, I swear I would never do anything on YouTube. And Alisa, right, sort of was like, hey, will you do this? And I just thought if it's with friends, I'm in good company, I'll go ahead and do it. But I'm pushing myself outside my comfort zone, frankly, to share my image like this and know that it's going to be out there outside of my control, because control is another aspect of Leo, but that's also true of Scorpio, right? So I double down on the control item for me. I have it in spades. And so, Lori, I think that's a great question. And that's really the difference is it's not really who I am at my core, but it's a capability I have and I've tried to leverage to serve the environment I'm in and the needs I have, and frankly, the needs of those around me. I'm probably much less warm and approachable at my core than my Leo rising might lead people to believe. And that's helped open doors and create relationships that if I just operated out of my Scorpio sun, probably wouldn't happen.
Yeah, and there's that blend, and that's why all of the elements that
Mhm.
we have, the entire zodiac is in each of our charts. It's just in different places and in different planets. And so that's awesome. Holly's able to gain more traction in certain situations because of her Leo rising. I think this is actually a really good time to contrast the Leo rising with Irina's brother, who is a Leo sun, especially since Lori just asked that question. And then if there's anything else to cover from a rising standpoint, we can come back to that. But just to round out this question, Irina, how do you see the Leo energy at your brother's core as his sun?
Well, when you talked about the showing up with the confidence and the boldness and the courage, my brother is very much, he steps into that extrovertedness in the sense that he's an actor, he's on the stage. So that traditional Leo definition of stepping into the spotlight, get on the stage and act, he is fulfilling. That is his soul's calling. And he puts his whole heart and soul into that work. It's so funny because in school, when he was younger, his grades, not to tell tales on him, but let's say his grades weren't the highest that they could be. And so my parents were worried. But as soon as acting came around and English, he soared like A plus 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 plus. Because what it also showed was that when his heart was in it, that's the Leo, signifies our heart. When his heart was in something, he excelled and he put his whole self and more into it. He is generous to a fault, to his friends, to his loved ones, to his family. He watches over them, very conscientious. And very much sometimes I feel like with the Leo, they wear their heart on their sleeve. Sometimes you don't realize that. And you think, oh, they're confident, they're bold, they're courageous. And you don't realize how much of themselves they put out there. And so there can be a certain vulnerability that comes in. And I just find that it's so important. And this is kind of funny because I pushed it a little bit too far with him the other day. Right now, we're taking turns hanging out with my dad because my dad was unwell there for a moment. And Billy put stuff onto the dining room table. And I'm like, Billy, this is what people see when they walk in the door. Like, no, And I kind of hurt his pride and embarrassed him a little because his girlfriend was there. I was like, you can't make a mess. You can't be a stinky boy. And he was like, fine. All right. I'll never do it again. If that's the way it is, I never have to be here. So the drama ensued.
A little dramatic.
And I was like, I just said, please don't put your bag and papers on the table.
You triggered his
Gross.
pride. You triggered his
Mhm.
pride, man.
I know. And I
And
embarrassed him in front of
humiliated
his
him.
girlfriend.
In front of his
So I was
girlfriend. Like, don't do that to a
dead
Leo.
meat. Yeah. Bad news. Yeah. So very careful. Watch your Leo's feelings.
Oh
It
my
is
gosh.
important. Yeah. To love on
That's
them.
so funny.
Can
All
I
right,
ask what
so-
house his sun is in?
You know, that's a good question because I was also thinking of his rising sign, because here's the other thing that's interesting is that his moon is in Aquarius, and we spoke about the moon last time, but
Yeah.
his need for space and just kind of getting out of the mix of things is so important, that need for freedom. And just really quickly, I've got my little software here. I'm going to pull it up because I'm so curious. Oh, his sun's in the 12th house. So there is that private piece.
Ah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's a Leo rising. Holy cow. Well, there you go.
Leo,
Wow.
so Leo rising and Leo sun. And I will tell you, because in my podcast that dropped this week, I talked about taking my kids to see a funny play last weekend, and it was Billy's play, and
Mhm.
he is hilarious. And I've got two little Billies walking around my house now because they are literally mimicking certain things that he did on stage that I'm like, stop it, stop it.
Love it.
But yeah, Billy is great. He is absolutely Leo shine, 100%. Okay. So Irina, you have Leo at your midheaven, which if anybody's unsure what a midheaven is, that is the other very important angle in a chart at the very top of it, the way you're seen in the world. So Irina, what is Leo like for you heading off your career house and how you are out in the world?
Yeah, I think there was an interesting lesson that I learned with this in my early days, and looking back in hindsight, realize I think of sometimes, just to give a quick little analogy, if you ever saw Back to the Future, and I don't know if it was like Marty McFly and his character or someone else in that, but he's like, did you call me chicken? Did you say I was a chicken? And he'd get so upset. I would get a similar reaction like that if I would offer up a piece of advice and it was disregarded. So, for example, so you talk about the Leo pride being wounded. Many a moon ago, I had a yoga studio and I would assist my yoga teacher. And when he taught, it would be like 300 people in a big room. So I was one of the certified teachers and I'd keep an eye on everyone. And I had a student come up to me with her friend, and she said, I'm worried about the hyperextension of my friend's legs. I said, no problem. This is what we need to do. And she said, you know what? I want to go to someone who knows what they're talking about. How about that guy over there? All right. And you know what? The guy number one wasn't certified. I was certified, right? Okay. So here's the Leo pride coming out. Like, let me just tell you how it is. I was certified, and the guy said the same damn thing that I said. Excuse me, pardon my French. And this is the heat, the drama, right? And what ended up happening was, even though he said the same thing I did, the woman turned and looked at me and said, see? And I was like, I said the same thing. So for me, that level of respect, or just like, okay, you know what you're talking about, because what Holly said was so beautiful. I take a lot of pride in my work, and whatever path I go down, I'm not going to do it superficially. I might be my Scorpio rising. I'm going to go deep. I will certify, initiate in it. Like all of us here, we spent over 500 hours just recently building deeper into our astrology practice. That doesn't even count the hours that went into it beforehand. I mean, Holly, you were born into this tradition. Katie and Lori, I know you've been practicing for a long time. Alisa, you brought this in from previous lives. So, you know, there's a lot that goes, we're not like, oh, we took this weekend workshop and we're going to talk astrology.
Right.
Like there's great pride that goes into it. So when I don't get the recognition or the validation for my work, or I get disrespected, it's soul wounding, and it's really hard to stick around and continue showing up. So I have to watch that, because it's kind of like the chicken thing. Like, did you disrespect my knowledge?
You know, that is a really good point. And I was thinking about this because my dad has a Leo midheaven. And he had a very long standing career as a college professor. And he also has a Scorpio rising. So I have to be careful I don't talk too much about him. I mentioned him on a podcast a few weeks ago, and he's like, I don't know if I like this. So I'm going to leave it real high level. But it's funny. He's at the head of a classroom for all these years and holding court, and he is the leader. And you know what Lori said about royalty? It's like he's holding court with his students. And he was very well respected. He still is in the community. He's done a lot of leadership in a lot of different ways. But that Leo midheaven, you know, Leo midheaven people, you guys are born to be leaders out in the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, or at least we'll step into the limelight and be a ham. So definitely a playful, silly energy that I bring to my work. I always say that we have to be playful about the approach. I might be very serious with the work I do, but I teach it in a playful way.
You definitely do. You definitely bring in that playfulness. And Leo is also the sign of children, and not only actual literal children, but also that childlike joy. And Irina, you make so many videos and so many pictures and posts just doing the most fun, silly things to drive home your point. I definitely see it in your work.
Thank you.
Speaking of work, Holly and Irina both also have Saturn in Leo in their charts. And Saturn is the planet of work, responsibility, what we are here to do on this earth. Saturn is a big one. So tell us, both of you ladies, which house your Saturn is in and how it shows up for you as far as the way you go to work.
So I'll jump in first. My Leo and Saturn is in the 12th house. So Irina, I feel like I need to meet your brother because now I know we have the same rising sign and Saturn and Leo in the 12th. When I think about Saturn, I also think about authority, maturity. Given that it's also my rising sign, I think that has attributed to me always having been identified as seeming older than I am from a maturation perspective. And that has shown up publicly in my career. So, like I said, my first leadership role, I was 20. I was a senior vice president at a large bank by the time I was 30. I had a goal to be that by 35, right? And I beat it. As you guys know, I've retired once, gone back to work, and left again to do this. And so that maturity piece definitely shows up. It also adds, though, pressure for me. Saturn adds pressure to be prepared, right? You said it, Saturn is work. And so when I say I'm prepared to show up, I'm prepared to stand and deliver, I'm prepared even when I didn't know I needed to be prepared because I've spent my whole life being prepared for the stuff, which it's a heavy burden to bear, frankly. There are times in my career where we would go to offsites or be in meetings and my peers would go to dinner. I'd go with them and then they'd go out after and I'd go back to my room and prepare for what we were going to cover the next day because I just am wired. I just have to do it. It added early responsibility and self-sufficiency, which is awesome. I think the limitation piece of it has really been around learning to constrain my pride and my ego, which admittedly has become easier as I've grown older and have more wisdom, right? Which is also a Saturn signifier. But in the 12th house, when you sort of marry that with the 12th house is symbolic of your fears, things that are hidden, secrets. It's also known as the house of self-undoing. And so I have absolutely shot myself in the foot multiple times because of my ego and being on a high horse that I was unwilling to step off of during times when it would have served me better just to get off the high horse, frankly. So there has definitely been some self-undoing in that arena. I would say my biggest sort of fear is also my biggest secret. A lot of people don't realize that there is this other side of me that I call scary middle of the night Holly, which is when it's dark and no one's around and I'm not on stage. I'm thinking about all the things I did wrong, that could go wrong. I am my own worst critic. And I've had senior leaders in my career coach me repeatedly about not being too hard on myself because of the damage that can do to your own morale. So I don't need someone criticizing me. Trust me, I'm doing plenty of it in the middle of the night. The last thing I'll add to this is meditation is symbolic of the 12th house, and I have used that to help my ego. I learned transcendental meditation in 2007. started, really committed to it, that has helped my ego significantly. So I can start to really tease out when something is happening that starts to feel scary or out of control. What is it you're really afraid of here? Is it something very real, or is it really something associated with your ego, which you need to then manage? As Leo relates to kids, here's a quick piece that I'll tell you as well. So I have one son. I had him late in life. I was 36. And I was told I only had a 1% chance of having a child unless I had medical intervention, which is fine, right? But I opted not to have the medical intervention because I said, if you pump me full of hormones, I might be on the 6 o'clock news. So let's just not do that. And for women who can go through that, I bow down, all respect, right? But I am assertive enough as it is without extra hormones pumping through my system. And so I ended up getting pregnant with my son and having a healthy baby, right? But even the notion of children and the constriction and the hidden piece of that, right, really shows up in that Leo in Saturn in the 12th house. So a very specific way of being able to see those qualities play out with a very real outcome, right? Like my child. And so I got my 1% miracle baby, the old fashioned way. Not that any other way is wrong, but it was the only route I was willing to go. So there you go.
That's awesome.
Would you think that Saturn would have put challenges on your Leo having children?
I don't know if challenges is the word I would use if it wasn't in the 12th. I think I was going to have to work at it, which I do. And I will tell you, my son was born with Moon in Leo.
Oh.
Yes. So having him has been as it is with every parent, I think, the biggest adjustment to my life that I could imagine. But he is not at all like me, right? He is truly this happy-go-lucky, playful, open-hearted, transparent sort of child, and not really serious and organized and executive thinking and all the things that I was, right? Saturn in Leo, like I said, emphasizes that maturity and executive thinking and the work you have to do. I think really it had more to do with the fact that it was in my 12th house.
See, and that's where that placement comes into play as well. So there's so many layers to astrology. There's the sign itself, there's whatever planet it is. The planet is the energy, the sign is the way it expresses, and then the house is where it shows up in your life, based on what those house significations are, like Holly just mentioned, what the 12th house is. So truly, this is just an exercise to show everybody how differently Leo energy can show up, or any energy for that matter, but Leo energy, as the topic of the day, shows up differently based on what planet it is, what house it is, all of those things, which I realized I probably should have said at some point, why am I asking about all these different planets and placements? It's to give everybody a very well-rounded idea of Leo energy and in the various ways that it expresses. So yeah, so that is a tough one, Saturn in the 12th in Leo. So well done, Holly. You're working at it. You're doing good. Yeah. Irina, what about your Saturn? I think yours is in the 9th. Am I right?
It is. It's in the 9th. And so it is very interesting, that point of, so Saturn in Leo, I can resonate with a lot of what Holly said, that early maturity. I was always hanging out with people who were older than me. I was the youngest in the class. I couldn't grow up fast enough. So there was a responsibility. I needed to achieve things early on. So like when you were talking about your goalposts, as you were saying, Holly, by 20, you were leading your first team. I was interviewing for my first managerial position in corporate at 22. And then when I found that I couldn't control the situations enough, and I became, so for me, having a family was very easy, and it came earlier than I expected. My husband and I were like, if it happens, it happens, great. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. And so Chase was like, okay, I am here and I am ready to play. And it's like, okay, let's go. But I was much younger than I had originally thought. I thought, oh, when I'm in my 40s, I'll have my kids, which, when I guess you're in your teenage years, that's what you think. No problem. 40, sure. Why not? I'll have a gaggle of kids. So anyway, so I had Chase in my mid to late 20s. And what ended up happening was I said, I can't, with my moon in Cancer, let go of the mothering of my child. So what can I do? I'm going to open up my own business and become an entrepreneur. So by 25, really, what had been a side hustle became my full-time gig. And with Leo in the ninth house, I stepped into that role of teacher. And I stepped into that role of seeking higher education around yoga, energy work, tarot, crystals, sound healing, like all of it. That was that exploration. I'm going to go deep. Another piece that I feel like is very interesting with the ninth house that comes in, that I think brought in the maturity a little bit sooner, is I was a foreign service brat. So my father, who was foreign service in the State Department, I was exposed to a lot of other cultures. And I am drawn to other cultures, love languages. I'm a Francophile to the extreme, lived in Italy and Ireland. And so for me, being able to speak many languages, to connect with other people in the way they do things, to learn it, to embody it, and then to share that with the world, that's a calling that I have. So by Saturn and Leo in the ninth house, for me, it shows up in that way of I need to teach and I need to be able to connect with different ways of doing things, taste it, experience it, and bring it out.
I love that. And that's actually kind of a good segue. Also, Irina, you do have one other placement that is Leo that kind of pulls all of this together, what you do. Go ahead and
Yeah.
what
So
is
that
it?
the part of Fortune, which is not an actual physical planet, it's a place in the heavens above, found out from a calculation and formulation. But it is when you step into the ease and the rhythm of that. So it being in Leo in the ninth house, when I step into a place of teaching and connecting with other cultures, grace and ease, fortune flows into my life with much more fluidity and ease, essentially. And I think that's the other thing too, is what made it easy to step away from corporate and open up my own business was that my heart wasn't in IT. I was doing decision sciences, information technology. And sure, I could do it, but the only reason I really got a degree in it was because I knew I could get a job and I knew I could move out of my family home. I wouldn't be
That
on
was
the
very
street.
mature of you, by the way.
Mhm.
Right,
Yes.
because I would have preferred to have been an actress and have been on the stage. But unlike my brother, the Leo, I like food too much and I couldn't risk not being able to eat. So I was like, right. But now I get to play, an actress, so to speak. I get to teach, I get to hold court, which is right up my alley with that Leo energy.
I love it. I love it. Katie, why don't you tell us what you were doing, which is why you were on just a few minutes late, because it's a very Leo type activity that I just think is perfect to share real quick before we move on.
Sure, I'm finishing up week 2 of band camp at a local high school, the color guard director there, so kind of Leo-like already. But at the end of rehearsal today, all the kids filled up water balloons and we stood against a wall and they called out different prompts, like just to us staff members against the wall. Who's most likely to be late to rehearsal? Who dresses the best? Who's the funniest? And these kids were just pelting us with these water balloons. And they had the most fun. So we got kids, we got fun, we got showing up and showing out in this hot sun. And that all sounds very Leo to me.
It definitely is. And that's why I'm like, you just have to share what you were doing here as we record this Leo episode. Leo is all about heart and it's all about authenticity and, being true to who you are and showing up, stepping out into your own version of a spotlight, whatever it is, and shining in your own way. And it's funny because this whole YouTube show here that I'm creating with my Astro Besties, it was all born out of the new moon in Leo last week. And it's funny because I don't have any planets in Leo, but I have a point called the North Node. And Lori is the yin to my yang, so to speak. She has her South Node in Leo. And the nodes of the moon are intersection points where the sun and the moon's orbits intersect. It's where eclipses happen, and they're considered karmic points where the North Node is the new direction where you're supposed to head for growth in this lifetime. The South Node is what you came in with, what's comfortable, kind of the old patterns that you still have to draw upon. You know, the North Node is sometimes a little more uncomfortable, but it's where you're meant to grow. It's kind of like growing from your moon to your sun energy. It's the same kind of thing, South Node to North Node. So what's interesting is this new moon in Leo was right on my North Node. And here I've been planning to get into YouTube, and I made a few videos in the last few weeks, the video version of my podcast, and it just didn't feel like me. I wasn't having any fun doing it. I was doing it because everybody says, oh, you got to get into YouTube. And there's so many podcasters out there that are doing it really well in that format. There's so many of them that record themselves on the video and then the audio, and it's great, but it wasn't me. And it was literally the day of this new moon that I had this aha moment. I told the full story on the podcast. You can listen to that for the full story. But the important thing is that I wanted to have fun. I wanted to do a creative project that inspired me from my heart. And I just thought of all of you and coming together and doing this together, and how fun would this be? And I called everybody on that day. I just, all of a sudden, I couldn't wait. And it was just so funny, the timing of the new moon. The new moon is all about new beginnings. And wherever it hits your chart, whenever there's a new moon every month, wherever that sign is, if it hits a specific planet or placement, it's an extra power punch. You feel it a little harder, like I did on my North Node, but sometimes you don't feel it as directly, and it just hits a part of your chart. And so in my case, it hit this North Node, and I suddenly knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to create this show and bring everybody together and talk astrology and do what we're doing. It's so much fun. I'm just so excited. And so I couldn't even wait till I got home. I was in the car. I called everybody and I'm like, I've got this idea. What do you think? And everybody was in. And this is my authentic self. This is me in my best heart-centered space, doing what I love. And so it's going to be great, because this is how I need to do YouTube with my friends. And it's just so funny. A new moon, all of us have got this new moon. I'm just getting so excited. I'm throwing things. My headphones are going crazy. Anyway, so the point is, my North Node got hit. I wanted to act. And Lori's South Node got hit with this project. And Katie has a cool thing to say about this too. And the whole point is, from my heart, that's how this was born. And that is Leo energy. I am stepping out of my comfort level, starting YouTube. I never even watched YouTube, really. This is brand new to me, but I'm doing it. It's kind of like fake it till you make it energy. That's Leo energy. The confidence, just get out there and do it. Just do it. And so here we are. So Lori, I don't know if you want to share about your South Node and kind of your thoughts on that and coming into this project.
Yeah. So my South Node is in Leo, and it's in the 7th house. And so my North Node is the opposite. It's in Aquarius, and it's in the 1st house. And I'm going to talk a little bit about South Node and Leo aside from just this project.
Yeah.
It's always been a conundrum to me that my North Node is in Aquarius in the 1st house, because Aquarius is very much about the community and humanity, and it's beyond the self. And the 1st house is very much the I am, it is the self. And I have struggled my entire life to understand, how am I supposed to do this North Node thing? You know, Aquarius in the 1st house. Well, lucky for me, Pluto is hitting my Aquarius North Node right now, which also means it's hitting my Leo South Node. And I've had some aha moments. And so Leo in the South Node in the 7th house for me expresses as extreme generosity to others. And this shows up in my one-on-one relationships. So in a marriage that I was in my friendships, it is giving and giving and giving of myself and treating the others like royalty. So that is what I'm learning to leave behind. And so it's interesting in relation to this podcast, you know, Alisa reached out to see if I was interested. And I'm like, absolutely. This is something I would love to do. It's a way to support, but I don't have to be in the lead, because Leo is not my North Node. That's not where I'm going, is to be in the lead. I'm here as a support person.
That is such a good description.
Yeah, that is such a good description.
Thank you.
And you're a great support person. And you're also a great leader in your own way still. Because you always draw on that South Node as well.
Yeah.
Katie, what was your thought? You told me later a funny story about what you were thinking when I called you because it was a new moon.
Yeah, it was the new moon. I mean, it's on my mind all day. I always set new intentions for the month ahead for the new moon. So I'm like, okay, what do I want to accomplish this month? What kind of energy am I putting out there? So it's on my brain all day. And then I see your text. I'm watching TV and I'm like, oh, it's the new moon. I wonder what she has to say when I call her. It's like, hey, call me. And I'm like, okay, dial the phone. Like, I don't know what she's going to say, but it's the new moon. It's going to be something new. She has this idea and I have to say yes to it because here it is coming right to my doorstep. I mean, you can't ask for a bigger sign from the universe to do something, I feel. So when I called you and you said, hey, you want to join me to do this thing? And I was like, heck yeah, I do. This is new moon in Leo. Let's go be seen. Let's go do something new with a bunch of friends and be seen while I do it. That sounds awesome.
Yeah. And I forgot to mention too, when Lori was talking about where her South Node is and her North Node, my North Node in Leo is in the 8th house, which is Scorpio's natural house. So this is a topic that we've already studied very deeply, that we are continuing to unpack in a deep way, in a fun way, right? Hopefully everybody thinks this is fun, both participants and viewers, but we're definitely going deep into astrology. And it's also the house of transformation, transforming myself through this process, transforming others, because astrology truly has transformed me to my core. I think differently, I behave differently. My entire mindset is different since astrology found me. And I hope that I can offer those same gifts out to as far as YouTube can reach and beyond. So the transformation themes here as part of my Leo in the 8th house is huge for me. I want that for everybody. I've just experienced such wonderful things so far in the years that I found astrology. I want everybody to have that opportunity.
I would also like to share for anybody listening and they're like, well, I don't have anything in Leo. Why do I care about Leo? I told this story about how something fell into my doorstep on the new moon in Leo. I have no planets in Leo. It's an empty house. So I just want people to know that just because there's nothing there doesn't mean that the energy still isn't flowing.
I love that.
That's a great point. Yep.
Yeah.
Does anybody else, before we wrap up, does anybody else have any other friends or family that have Leo in maybe some prominent planets that they'd like to share? I've got one quick story about my husband I can share, but I want to give the floor to anybody else first if you've got any. No? All right. So my husband has his Mars in Leo, and it's in the 5th house, which is Leo's natural house. So his Mars in Leo is very happy in the 5th house, which is the house of children, creativity, pretty much all the Leo words we've been saying, that's 5th house. So it's reinforced. And his Mars is how he takes action, the way he competes, the way he works, his whole go out in life, his energy, his action, his drive. And he is a performer. When he was in corporate America for years and years, and he was a sales leader, he would play all kinds of pump it up music and do really good award show type scenarios for his employees when they were winning awards. Everybody loved how Kevin would put on a good show at work. He loves sports. He plays all sports. He was a college athlete, and he loves to play with all of our kids. He has 6 kids. I've got 4 stepkids. He's coached all of them for all of the years that they were small. My stepkids are adults now. So we're going on 2 decades. Kevin's been coaching kids, and he loves it. And I will tell you, the way he competes, he's a performer, the way he competes. Anybody challenges Kevin to anything, he is going to win. He is going to show you why he's going to win. He's going to make a show of it. Anybody who knows my husband will attest that this is exactly how he is. I mean, he's challenged personal trainers to race who are 20 years younger than he is. He's like, whatever, I can beat him. And he did. He beat him. He is a Leo Mars to the T. So and he's a lot of fun, and you know, he's a lot of fun.
Now that I know that, I'll never play pickleball with him.
No,
Ever.
you probably, I don't. There is no way, no how. Mm-mm, nope.
I'll challenge him.
I would watch that. I would love that. Oh, it'll be entertaining.
You know,
Well,
that's so interesting that it's in the 5th and he has 6 kids, right?
Yep.
I mean,
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah.
again, just such a great example, right?
Yep.
Of how that shows up when it's empowered and it's in a powerful sign and it's in its own house, and
yes.
the hobbies and kids and athleticism.
Yes.
Such a great.
And at a high level, he played college football for the Air Force Academy. I mean,
Mhm.
that's not an easy feat. He's,
Mhm.
and to your point about the kids, he had 4 children. When I met him, I said, "Hey, I want babies. Are you up for 2 more?" He's like, "Yep, yep." And I'm like, "Okay, proceed. We're good." You know, but yeah, he is. He's a lot of fun. I mean, he's Leo Mars. There you have it. All right, ladies. Anything else? Any closing thoughts on Leo? Anything else that we didn't touch? All right. Well, if anybody out there has any Leo placements or friends or family that we said something that anything came to mind, feel free to drop it in the comments. We would love to engage with you. That's just the most fun. We'd love to grow our Astro Bestie network. So thank you so much for listening, for watching, and for being here with us. And we will have something else for you again next week. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.